Well, what's going on, Hoof listeners? Welcome back to Thursday night as we get into we halfway through training camp. Going to be diving into that tonight, but good to see you made it, Anthony. Good to have you back.
Yeah. Good filling in by Izzy last week. Appreciate that. You guys had a good show, but feels good to be back. Yeah, family obligations and events and all that good stuff. But
fun.
Happy to be here with you again.
Yeah, so you just made it in time. I know you had some things going on. Running down the stairs here. You made it. Breathe.
That's right. Woo, I feel good. It's a good thing I've been going to the gym because I don't feel as gassed right now.
Yeah. Anyway, we talked running backs last week. Check out that show. Good to get to know Izzy a little bit, and thought we had a little start there. Like we could build some chemistry. Like I get it, but great conversation around running backs, and we feel like we talked about every position all off season. Saved running backs for like that last, so I was happy to get that in. But yeah, Bills practice today. They are going back to Buffalo tomorrow. 5:30 to 7:30. It's the return of the blue and red at Highmark Stadium.
Right.
So I've heard that's a great experience. Like,
it's supposed
to be
to
a few people. Say you go. Obviously, you sit close. There's not a lot of people in the stadium. There's no lines for bathrooms or concessions, things like that. And like training camp, you're up and close to the players, right?
And they sign autographs, and it's all good fun. And they do entrances, and every year so far, for the last 2 years, Josh Allen has had a helmet that has gotten people going. So we'll see what he comes out in this year. I don't know if he can top the red helmet from last year.
Yeah,
that's what we all want and need. And why they haven't done it yet is a complete, the worst thing this organization can do. They need to give us back the 90s red helmet. It's my favorite helmet. So I want that one back. But Josh Allen looks so good in it last year, that red helmet.
And I think didn't we see a blue helmet too?
2 years ago, he had the blue helmet, right? Yeah.
Getting low on ideas now.
Yeah, right. It's so I figured maybe he'll do a variation of the standing buffalo or something, something crazy. So
he'll have historical. That'd be really cool.
I'm sure he'll have something on it.
For sure. Yeah. So definitely keep an eye on that because, I think it's just practice, only 2 hours, but I feel like watching that game, you get an idea of what they're trying to accomplish a little bit. I mean, they're not showing you everything, but like who's running with the ones, who's running with the twos. You get a good idea of that type of stuff. So,
right.
The other thing that popping up is the kickoff, right? The Hall of Fame game tonight, 8:00.
Yeah, football's back. Here we go.
Football's back.
It's on TV tonight.
Yep, August 1st, 8:00, ESPN, ABC. And really, like my first thought on this is just watching the kickoff, right? We're going to be doing our show, so I might try to tap into that, just see if we can like watch the kickoff. If not, I'll have to watch it later. But
new around the league, right? So this is the first time in the NFL we're going to see this style of kickoff. Yeah, so that's a good point, and just see how they play it, or if this is really going to be how they play it. Sometimes teams keep things under wraps until the season, but I think this is one of those things you gotta get out there and see how it actually works before you put your own little spin on it, right? And I'm sure it'll change as the season goes on in terms of creativity and what people are thinking about doing, or the strategy behind where whether you return it or where you kick it or whatever else. But that's going to be fascinating all season long, and it starts tonight.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else you want to see from the Texans and Bears? I mean, not going to see Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, we know we're not going to see Caleb Williams. That's a pretty big disappointment, but for those tuning in anyway, I don't know. Not much else excitement-wise for the NFL as a whole. Right. I mean, all preseason games, it's about depth on your team, right? It's about where are those guys at right now. So it's a huge deal for the Texans and Bears, and from there it's more about staying healthy and moving on to the next game, which is usually the dress rehearsal game, right? That the players will play in.
Yeah, I don't know what we're looking for the Bears. I mean, Keenan Allen, I doubt we see him, right? There's a lot of changes over there, so it's it's kind of an interesting storyline. You might have a Ryan Bates viewing tonight.
There you go. Yeah, Bills reference. That's a good point. Yeah.
Right. But I mean, I don't know how long you want to watch the guard play. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. And that's a tough thing to keep an eye on during the live game, at least, the snaps and all that. Is he blocking his guy? Is he holding the line? He might even get that much action in a preseason game to start the season, right? So yeah.
Yeah, and also Roma Dunze, I think would be something to pay attention
I
to.
think
Not sure if you
he's not
see him
playing
or
either.
not.
I think
He's out
they've
too.
already said
Okay.
he's not playing either.
Yep.
Yeah. So
anyway, other changes. Montez Sweat, probably won't see him, but he's with the Bears now. And how about Tommy Sweeney? Ooh.
Oh, there's another Bills reference. Yeah, he's there too, huh? Yeah.
So yeah, kind of funny.
He'll probably get playing time actually. So yeah, he might play in this one.
Let's see, Texans. I mean, Diggs obviously not.
Right, he's going to be out because it's preseason. You don't want to wear out your veteran players like that, especially. So
right,
that week 2, I can
think of.
That's when you'll see him. The next game for the Texans, you'll definitely see Diggs out there with Stroud at quarterback.
Maybe Jerry Hughes.
Right, the old veteran.
Again, veteran. I don't think you see a lot of Jerry Hughes because got the veteran status. Probably a starter still, I would assume.
I was disappointed that he didn't sign back with Buffalo this offseason, late in the offseason, but he stays with the Texans, which is where he's from, right? So he went down there and now
still
he's
playing.
Still playing at a great level as we always expected here in Buffalo. Getting to the quarterback, making plays, he's always there. But good player to watch.
Always loved Jerry. So
and just the Texans in general are a young, up and coming team in terms of their roster. Lots to see there on offense and defense, really, and their coach and how he manages that again for the first game of the preseason, which is really just seeing what guys got on the depth of the roster. It's not going to matter as much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's probably what Tyson Baggett,
Badgett, Tyson
Badgett, and Case Keenum, I would assume. So anyway,
marquee matchup there.
So yeah, it's exciting that football's back. That's exciting. Right. Going to watch the kickoff. That's going to be fun. But I mean, we'll see how long it lasts. Right, the Hall of Fame game is always that way for me.
So let's hope it's high scoring so we can watch a lot of kickoffs.
yeah, exactly. Yes,
get a lot of reps in tonight.
Right. So I might watch the beginning and maybe halftime. Right, kickoff after halftime.
Yeah.
But again. Yeah, so football's officially underway. We won't, every week we'll have football until February. So that's really what's so exciting about the Hall of Fame game. And obviously Saturday watching the ceremonies, I mean, the speeches are always phenomenal, right? My wife works out, rides her bike, it's like a stationary bike, and just watches Hall of Fame speeches. And I'm like, it's hilarious.
Interesting choice. Yeah. That's motivational, I guess, right? Yeah, they're talking about their successful careers and everything they've done. Yeah, why not?
Joey asks, "What's up, Joey? What channel is the Hall of Fame game being broadcasted on?" Is that ABC and ESPN for that one? John, what's going on? Good to see you again. Always, good to see a loyal listener. Yeah. Gates open, red and blue at 4 p.m.
Yeah, that's fun. It's meant to be fun, right? Yeah, even though the game, quote unquote, the scrimmage doesn't start till 8? So yeah.
I'll get a little tailgating in. Why not? All right, let's get into training camp. Start with a little bit around the league. NBC Sports put an article out, and they kind of touched on every team and kind of what the story has been.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple I want to touch on. So Zay Jones impresses early for Arizona. Michael Wilson appeared to have the inside track to the receiver 2 job at the start of camp, but Zay Jones isn't going down without a fight.
Yeah. I mean, we know what Zay Jones is, right? He's proven that he can do something at the NFL level, versus the competition there in Arizona, maybe not so much. And he did well when he was with Jacksonville, especially before they signed more guys to come in. So it's not surprising to me that he's impressing on a team that needs leadership at the position, right? So you take a guy who's normally a number 3 on another team, and they can be a number 2 on that team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's always had great hands. Like college, he's one of the all-time college leaders in receptions at receiver, right? And then in Jacksonville, I thought he played well for Jacksonville. There's just something about Buffalo. It didn't click with him, right? Just wasn't the same player, so I'm not surprised by that at all. Going down to Baltimore, Rashad Bateman showing up in camp. Head coach John Harbaugh, he's expected to be a top receiver in the league for us, and that's what we're planning on.
Yeah.
So again, when you draft receivers in the first round every year, you expect results from that, right? So
Absolutely, and he should live up to that. I would expect
yeah,
nothing less. He should be the primary target for, as much as we know
yeah,
that team likes tight ends, it's you have a receiver like that, like you said, that you've invested in, you expect the
yeah,
guy to step up. This is multiple years
right.
now under this organization and scheme. He should
Yeah, I
be
think
able to do his thing.
I think they take a step. Zay Flowers showed he could do a lot in the league.
Oh, yeah.
Mark Andrews, right? So I think Rashad Bateman could benefit from that. For the Bills, they talked about Dawson Knox. Those expecting
Interesting.
Kincaid to usurp the full-time role from Dawson Knox this year and push veteran tight end into a backup may have their hopes dashed.
Yes.
So
I mean, I would agree with that to an extent, but Kincaid's the star, right? Kincaid is
yeah,
going to be in there. But that people are overlooking Knox in general, not the people in our chat because they know better, right? But people in general are overlooking Knox and saying, "Well, you paid this guy $10 million." I get this question a lot from outsiders who are not Bills
right,
fans,
right,
like, "Oh, why did they pay Knox? And then what's going to happen with that guy? He's not going to do anything." It's like,
right.
no,
Keep
he's
hearing
still going to
they're
be
going
an
to trade him,
active
right?
and he's a reliable target for Josh Allen. He has the chemistry with Josh Allen. We've talked about that in the offseason so far. Of all the players on this team, he has the most chemistry with Josh Allen. And the continuation of success that they've had together. People are also overlooking Knox because he was hurt last year, right? And he didn't live up to his expectations last year. But before that, I still think that if Knox were on most other teams, he'd be a top tight end in the league. In the league. Not just, he'd be in the top 5
Right.
conversation in the league, and now we've got him on our team playing alongside
Yeah.
of a Dalton Kincaid because, those 2 are gonna get enough
Yeah,
snaps
with his
together.
size and athleticism, he's almost
Yeah.
built to play tight end. It's funny because he only had like 9 receptions in 4 years of college. Played quarterback in high school, so it's
Mhm.
to see him evolve into a top, what do you say, top 10, top 8 tight end. It's really impressive from him. Like, he put a lot of work in to get to that point. I think playing tight end in the NFL has got to be one of the toughest positions, right?
Mhm.
And like you said about Kincaid, outsiders always wondering if they would trade Knox. Really, Kincaid and Knox are 2 different style of players, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Brandon Beane's been very upfront about that. You saw that last year. Like, Kincaid primarily plays in the F, so it's out of the slot. It's not really in line. There is packages where he's in line, but Knox is just the better inline tight end,
Yeah. Plus, they
right?
just reworked Knox's deal so that it's basically impossible to move on from him
Mhm.
this season, but maybe next season. I still think through after 2 seasons, then they'll
Right.
obviously probably likely to move on from him, but
Yeah, I agree.
certainly not
And
this season.
it's a good plan because it gives Kincaid a long ramp period to get up to
Yeah.
speed, right? We know he's a great receiving tight end, but let's work on this blocking. Like, how much better can you get at this?
Mhm.
And that really will impact the decision on Knox, in my opinion. All right, Denver
Agreed.
Broncos. Let's see. From talking to people here on the ground with the team, they're very impressed with Bo Nix.
Yeah.
Okay, I think everyone with a quarterback would say that.
But I've heard that from even before he was drafted, right? That once I started watching his tape, I said I liked him more than some of the other guys out there, and he did look like he could come in and be ready to play, right? And make plays. He's still got to learn. He's a rookie. But the Broncos are happy with their pick, and the team seems to be going in the right direction. So, again, that's all you can ask for when you're a rebuilding organization. You're seeing your guy for the first time. He's doing all the right things. You're like, yes, we're checking the boxes, right? And now you don't know until that translates to real game success. And obviously, when you're in rebuild mode, that probably isn't going to be right away. We didn't see that with Josh Allen right away, right? But the growth needs to be there. And
Mhm.
Bo Nix is the type of guy and player that is fit for
Right.
that, I think.
And he's in a good situation, right?
Yes, great
It's like
head
if
coach.
Knicks
Yeah.
went to a different team, it'd be, tougher for him to get up to speed.
Mhm.
I feel like Sean Payton's the perfect coach for him. So that coach quarterback combo, I think, works, right? And
Right.
we'll see. I don't think he'll have success overnight. Don't think it'll be success year 1, but like, year 2,
Yeah.
year 3, I think you'll see growth.
And there's something to be
Um,
said about not setting expectations too high, right?
mhm,
If you went to a playoff organization, the expectations are through the roof. If CJ Stroud went to an organization that was expected to make the playoffs, does he look as good as he did last year? Probably
right.
not, right? So there's there's something to be said about coming in and just being able to relax and do what you can do and learn, and then that turns into a success rather than coming into a situation that is highly pressured, like you must perform at your best right away, and see what they can do. So that
it
situation
feels like
like
the Jets or Cleveland. There's like, because they've had so many
correct
top picks for so many years that like their rosters are stacked. It's just they can't figure out the quarterback. So if you get drafted there early, you're expected to come in and kind of carry the roster a little bit. But
right,
the other side of that, Denver Broncos, Benjamin Albright, who I think you're probably familiar with from living in Denver, but he had a question from Search 17. Is Troy Franklin showing early promise? The response from Benjamin: I don't really know how to answer this. He's been coached pretty vocally, pretty hard out there. You see flashes here and there, but I don't think he's likely to be starting, let alone a big part of the plan this year. Sutton, Mims, and Reynolds are probably starters over him.
So it seems like where he was drafted makes sense now.
Right.
Like that is, he is what he is. What was he, 5th round pick? Like
right,
that.
4th, 5th, yeah.
He fell pretty far. You're not expecting him to start day one, but there's potential there, and he's got to learn. So it seems like the league was right on him, at least so far, right? We never know until you see game action and you see it at real speed in real time and how quickly they pick things up. But that is,
he's drafted round 4. And it's funny because you watch the football and you're like, wow, this guy's good. Like, he's just blowing by dudes. I mean, he's got the body and the speed combination is rare for him. So, I mean, when you're just watching pure film, it seems like he can be a good player, but I think there's something else going on that maybe fans don't have access to, or armchair scouts like you and me. We don't really have access to something. A couple more here. Detroit Lions. Dan Campbell on Jameson Williams. This is the most confident that I've seen him since he's been here. He came in with the right mindset when we started this offseason, and that has not waned one bit. He's in a good place.
That's a great thing for that player, because if you remember that draft, the whole story was this guy would be a top 5 pick if he didn't have the injury coming in, right? Like, and all this, and now he's feeling good there and everything. So I do think that's a good sign for them in terms of, I don't think Dan Campbell's the type to just blow smoke for a guy. You have to earn it when he's
and Jameson Williams, he's had injuries.
I
think every offseason
throughout his career.
Actually being healthy this year, going to mini camp,
huge. It's
just
huge
being out there with the team, I think, is huge. Right.
And
he's got some games under his belt now, and he's made some splash plays here and there. So I think, he's getting more confident. So keep an eye on Jameson Williams. And it is early, right, folks? Like,
it's only halfway.
This is all just buzz.
You already said we're almost halfway. We are halfway through training camp. That is crazy to think. Granted, that doesn't mean halfway to when the season starts, right? Training camp breaks, then they go to normal practices toward the end. So, non-media, non-St. John Fisher practices after that. But it's still, to say we're halfway through camp, there's a lot going on around the league. And with the Bills and the injuries, man, that's always what you keep an eye out for. Knock on wood, right?
Yes, gonna get to that.
It's been tough around the league. Yeah, I know. So, but that's always what you hold your breath on with training camp news, right?
Yeah, it's happened. Quarterbacks tear ACLs in training camp. It's happened before. Kevin Cobb comes to mind for me. Slipped in the tunnel,
slipping on the mat.
Never seen him play, right?
The hero that wasn't.
Get those mats out of here. Anyway, 2 more for you. Jags offense struggling. The storyline of the first week of camp was the defense's dominance over the offense, specifically in the passing game. And Brian Thomas Jr., quiet start to camp for Jacksonville.
That's not a surprise. Again, a rookie, you don't expect too much out of him. Granted, he was a high pick and all that. He's still learning the system, still getting his first reps, actions with pads on, all that good stuff that we know of the Bills too. Jacksonville, a team that needs to show up this year. You just paid your quarterback big time.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a bigger disappointment than Jacksonville last year of being the number 1 seed and then falling so badly you don't even make the playoffs, and it was that's pretty precipitous.
The hype around Trevor Lawrence, like there's been expectations for him since day one.
Yeah.
And
and he's got weapons around him. It's not
I feel like you could call him probably an average quarterback at this point. I don't know if we've seen the growth from him, right?
He does a few things above average, but mostly you're correct that I would not call him a top 10 quarterback by any means. Maybe not even, top 15. He's scraping
and
the
if
surface.
you look back to the last 3 years, I don't think it's on track to go that way either, right? I don't think he's going to make a huge jump all of a sudden. I think he's just kind of is what he is at this point. So, yeah, that report, not surprising, but we'll see how it progresses. Could change. And best one for last for you, DJ Chark working with the first team offense for the Chargers, sometimes ahead of Quentin Johnson. Quentin Johnson falling behind is the topic here.
Chargers, yes, right, and continuing to drop balls, which has been his, Achilles heel.
Right, hate to see that.
People are making fun of him around the league for that, and DJ Chark, though, somebody who I was very high on in this offseason, saying the Bills should get him and play, and it doesn't surprise me to an extent that he is the best receiver on that Chargers team right now, right? They cut ties with everybody, and, I think that's going to be an uphill battle there for their passing game, especially if you have guys dropping passes and you can't get the confidence of Quentin Johnson back up to where he's, playing at a high level and getting his body coordinated to his mind, right? That's usually the problem there. It wasn't like he had some dropsies problem his whole career in college or anything.
He's doing a lot of thinking.
Correct. It's
NFL
more
offenses are much more complicated. You can tell his head's spinning a little bit. He's not playing free. I mean, I think Jim Harbaugh helps him with that, kind of taking the pressure off the passing game a little bit. You do have Justin Herbert there. I mean, Quentin Johnson, he's in the best situation possible. So if it doesn't work here, it's going to be a long road for him, as far as an NFL career. But again, the ability he has a lot of ability. So I think if he can stop thinking so much, you'll start to see some plays from him. And I think they're relying on him this year. So I think that's this year. All right. So that's training camp buzz from around the league. So let's get into training camp buzz for the Bills.
With the Bills.
First buzz, Ed Oliver emerging as the leader on the defensive line. Story came out yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, both days he's excelled at camp from what I've heard and seen. That means Ed Oliver is taking that next step. Man, Brandon Beane looks like an absolute genius by signing him when he did, right? Because I mean, he was already one of the top in the league last year, and now he seems to be taking an even bigger step forward. And he's not afraid to, put his stamp on it, even amongst the team. One of the reports I saw said he made a big play in the backfield and then went over to the offensive side and kind of was egging them on, flexing on them, which, he's doing what he needs to do. He's performing out there. This isn't a surprise to me as much as, people are hyping it up to be. It's like, no, this is Ed Oliver being Ed Oliver, and doing what he can do on the field, which is why we're excited to see him next to a healthy Daquan Jones and a much deeper, better defensive line in general this season to really get the most out of what I don't think is a stretch to say is your best defensive lineman, and get the most out of him.
Yeah, and I think the Bills brought in a lot of younger players, right? The past few years, it's a lot of veteran players, right? So, I think Ed's just naturally in that spot in his career where he's the older player for a lot of the guys, right? So I think, him stepping up is not a surprise. But yeah, the stories on Sports Illustrated, veteran Bills defensive tackle ascending into larger leadership role at training camp. Greg Vorst, the author on that one. But yeah, not surprising at all. I mean, I think you expect that. He's a guy's on a second contract, right? He kind of earned his money in his first contract. He's not like a top 10 game breaker, like, defensive tackle around the league when he compared to other players around the league. But I mean, he makes splash plays, right? And that's kind of who he is as a player, right? At defensive tackle, I don't think it's easy to make splash plays like that. So yeah, I think a lot to like about Ed. He ain't going anywhere.
That's right. Good leader to have on our side.
All right, next one here. Latest on the Bills receiver room, Keon Coleman as advertised. I think what we mean by that. Couple nice catches here and there, jump balls, right? But again, still learning, right?
Yes.
And I think that's kind of what you expect at this point in training camp for Keon Coleman. Really, the buzz has been around Terrell Shavers, it seems like. McDermott calling him one of the most consistent players, first in, last out type of guy. Very, very consistent. Right. So, I mean, but what do you know about Terrell Shavers? I mean, I think we've seen him.
Right.
He had one catch in the preseason with Matt Barkley at quarterback. I mean,
yeah. So, and all of a sudden he emerged even before everything started. Bean was talking about him as a darling and saying he's the first guy in. He stayed in Buffalo. He did all his training there, and he's been here all off season, and he knows the system now. He's smarter, and he's emerging at camp right now, right? Making plays, looking like he's going to make this roster, which is great for him. But like you said, starting this with Keon Coleman, I think Coleman's right where we want him to be. He's learning the system. He's making plays, showing that he has the talent and he can do it, But when it comes to now that the pads are on and getting a little rough at the line, these are NFL players, man. They're going to put you in your place, and you got to be able to fight back. And I think that's where he's going to find that balance. And he's smart enough and strong enough and talented enough that he's going to be able to beat that coverage, and the coaches are going to be able to coach him up on that. So I'm not worried about the negative reports coming out. There is some talk of, oh, he's not living up to the hype and whatever. I think those people are crazy, because I think he's doing exactly what he needs to do. He's making those plays when he can. And it's not like he doesn't look lost out there. He's learning. He's constantly, from what I've heard, talking to other players, talking to the coaches. He wants to learn and get better. He wants to know what he's doing wrong or right, and build on it. So I can't ask for much more from him. But the wide receiver room in general seems to be working out mostly as we expected, with those top 4 guys, if you include Coleman, doing what we'd expect them to do.
Hard saying MVS has been quiet, but again, it's early in training camp, right? This guy's a veteran player. I think that stuff will come when game time comes. Right. Yeah. I don't think you make decisions on, who's going to lead, be a contributor to the offense this early in training camp, right?
Yes, you need to see it in the preseason. You got to see these guys, especially the ones competing for that lower wide receiver, the last wide receiver spot, if you will, whether it's 5 or 6 guys we end up keeping. There's a question. Yeah, those guys are going to play on game day, the first game, right? So
yes,
Shavers is going to be out there likely, although he was getting play with the ones, right? So you talked about Shavers.
And where is this coming from? Okay. This guy has
he's worked his way up in the hearts of Brandon Bean and the coaching staff.
Right. So he's at San Diego State, and he had his senior year, he had 643 receiving yards. A lot to like there. 3 touchdowns. Before that, 200 yards receiving his junior year, Mississippi State sophomore year, and then Alabama, where he only had 1 reception. So there's just not a lot to look at from a stats production standpoint. But he's 6'4", 211, right? You like that, and when you do watch him, he seems agile. He's kind of wormy, you know what I mean? So from when you're looking at a receiver, that's kind of what you want. Guy who can bend, right? Get around the route. But again, I want to see more of Terrell Shavers, because I feel like we don't really know him as fans.
Exactly.
Right?
I can't wait to see him. And again, the way he was hyped up by Bean and McDermott, he's done something right to in their eyes to get this opportunity. He wouldn't be running with the ones if he didn't earn it. That's how I feel about it, at least, right? Like he's worked his way up and proven himself enough that they're like, hey, now we really got to see what he's got. But I do expect that he'll be out there on game day to, compete and show what he's got even more.
Yeah, I agree. Josh had good to say about Terrell Shavers. Also
even
true.
Better.
We also mentioned Keon Coleman, just commenting on his intelligence, football intelligence. It's something you can't really see on the field yet, I would say. But again, that's good stuff, right? It's stuff you want to hear from the quarterback. And we'll see what happens with Shavers. I don't think there's a roster spot for him. We broke it down already, so
but I do
have to be disruptive if he made the roster.
Well, even in my May 53-man roster that I did, I said wide receiver is the one position where I think there's 2 spots that could be up for grabs to anybody. You could tell me anybody gets those spots and I would believe you, because it's a true competition between those last few guys, right?
I think it would be Shorter and Claypool wouldn't make it, right?
I did
Shavers
not
made
have
it.
Shorter making my roster, and
Right,
at that
right.
point, I did have Claypool as the favorite because he was the
Special
veteran.
teams.
But I
Yep.
think that right now, and the special teams play, but right now, Shavers has definitely leapfrogged Claypool on most people's 53-man rosters and minds, because Claypool dealing with an injury, but hasn't really done
Toe
anything at
injury.
camp,
Yep.
and now Shavers is capitalizing on the opportunities he's been given, right? So obviously, Shakir and Coleman and Curtis Samuel are all, locks,
Right.
and then from there, and Mac Hollins, but
Right. Matt
it's
Collins getting a lot of time with the ones.
certainly, and yeah, and really, I think that's again what we talked about, is him getting play early on before they start working in more Keon Coleman, more of
Mm-hmm.
these
Yep.
other
That's a
types
good
of
point.
plays. So I think that, yeah, that's important for this team as well, and the leadership that Mac has shown is even more impressive. Such a quirky guy, weird guy to watch his interviews and hear him talk, but they love him. His teammates love him, and everybody seems to, you know, what's the word I'm looking for?
Rave.
Gravitate. They
Rave.
gravitate toward
Yeah.
him. They all gravitate toward him. Anybody who's asked about him is like, yeah, he's the best guy I've ever known, and whatever. And so that's a good thing to have on your team in terms of leadership at the position. But those four are on the roster. Anybody else is, questionable at best. And who knows? The Bills could only keep 5 wide receivers. They did last year, or go with 6. I think they're more likely to go with 6 in this case. And right now, I'd probably give that to Shavers and MVS, because I do think
Right.
MVS is going to be that, occasionally used deep threat type of guy that they want to have on the roster. And then special
Right.
teams, again, we don't really know what's going on with the kickoff. Are those
Right.
guys going to be there for that and play that? Likely, if you're one of those bottom guys, that's going to be part of your job as well.
Right. And kick returner seems like a small piece of who you keep on. You're
Yeah.
asking me somebody who can play special teams, right? Maybe that's kick returner, maybe that's, a wing player or something like that in special teams, but that's the conversation you're having at those bottom positions, right? So it's Shavers. I mean, he was on the practice squad last year. I don't think he played at all, but can he play special teams? I think that's the big question.
Mm-hmm.
So you can find somebody who can play special teams and do a couple packages.
Right.
That's
then
really
you're probably
added value, right?
Yes.
So again, continue to pay attention to that, because that seems to be the buzz coming out of the receiver room. All right, Bills continuity planning, right? They signed 2 safeties.
Yeah.
Kareem Jackson
Mm-hmm.
and Terrell Burgess.
Yes.
So yeah, Jackson's an interesting player because he's been suspended twice, fined 4 times last year for hits.
That's not the side you want to be. But
right.
yeah.
So I mean, veteran player's been over 10 years, right?
Yeah.
He'll be 36 years old. And yeah, I don't know. It's it feels like a insurance move only, right? Why not bring a veteran guy in? They've done this with Josh Norman, right? You just bring him in, teach the young guys, get them up to speed, kind of share your insights, and then thanks for your contribution, right? That's kind of what Kareem Jackson feels like to me.
Correct. Yeah, I think that's kind of the veteran to we're certainly getting low at the position with the injuries to Edwards and now Cole Bishop. So there was a need just for bodies. Forget anything else. You need bodies at the safety position right now because of the injuries, but also, yeah, that veteran leadership, that whatever. To me, I already know what's going to happen in my mind. This is already screaming Hyde is signing to start on day 1, and
right.
because of the injuries, and then
right. How soon can you get Hyde in here, right?
Exactly.
He's like, I'm not willing to work until week 1 of the NFL. No training camp this year.
And I think they've said what Cole Bishop is week to week, but with a rookie, every day you miss is like a season, right? That's a huge deal. So you can't, him missing time is a huge setback to me. The veteran missing time is less important, right? So Edwards, if he were able to come back and get enough practices in and show enough flash, he could start on day 1, and that wouldn't surprise me, right? Like, he's ready to go, we'll put him in. But I don't think that's going to happen with, the current situation. I think what is going to happen is Hyde's going to come back, and then you're going to have that rotation of guys, and Hyde's going to play a role there. So
You still need a Poyer, right? I think that's
well, right.
Mike Edwards. Yeah.
No, well, you're yes and no, right? The one position is filled, right? They have cemented themselves in, and now it's one position that's up for grabs, right? So whichever one you call Hyde, whichever one you call Poyer is fine. But it's only one position that's up for grabs, and we shouldn't be overlooking DeMar Hamlin, because if you asked me whose play so far has earned them a spot, DeMar Hamlin should be the starter, right? And that wouldn't surprise me at all. I said again on the show when people were cutting him way back in February or whatever, I said, no way this guy could be a starter. And he did play as a starter for us the first time Hyde went down and was in there in his rookie year.
He played a lot, up until his incident.
Right,
He played a lot of games, right?
Yes. And now he's a year removed from that. He's been doing better and better every step of the way, right? Throughout mandatory mini camps and all that. It's look at this flash play and look at him take the next step. And now in training camp and now with the pads on, Hamlin continues to show out. So I do think that he is somebody to watch in terms of who's going to start. But to me, we know that Rapp is cemented in, right? He's the guy who's not going anywhere.
Right now, the starters in training camp right now are DeMar Hamlin and Taylor Rapp with the injuries. So
yes, but they've been rotating the other position. Rapp has played every day as a starter.
Cam Lewis has been rotated in there too.
Yes, everybody has gotten a chance. And Cole Bishop did when he was there and healthy. And now I just think, again, next to Taylor Rapp, it's going to be, it's going to be interesting to see who it ends up being. If Hamlin continues ball out, it might be him. If Hyde doesn't come back, I think Hamlin's the leading guy. But in my mind, it's going to be Hyde, and Hamlin will get some snaps, and we'll see where the health is from there, basically.
Right, and wouldn't surprise me if Hyde comes back and then they kind of rotate
the
Poyer position in the strong safety, right? Because they're interchangeable anyway. So yeah, I think they want to get Cole Bishop on the field at some point this season. That's my assumption because you drafted him so high.
They want to, they need to.
But you have Mike Edwards too, who doesn't. He's played a lot of football, but is he an every down player? Kind of questionable, right?
Yes, right.
He did a lot of rotating, a lot of packages with Tampa.
Yeah, I think that was the plan too. You're not really going to play every snap, but you'll rotate, and he's a veteran, and he's earned it, and all that. But and we know what he is basically, and that's why they were, they wanted him to get reps in mini camp and in training camp so far. But the injury holding him back is a big deal because he hasn't gotten to just literally work the system. He might understand it because he's a veteran. He might know where he's supposed to be, but being out there on the field and next to the guy who's now penned in as the starter in Rapp, that's important too when you have that duo. And I'm on record saying I'm worried about Rapp being this heralded starter, and I do want to be more comfortable at the safety position, right? That's going to be the most uncomfortable thing for the Bills because we had two lockdown guys for so long. Just seeing our defense with not those guys anymore is tough. But Rapp, to me, not all the confidence in the world in him based on what I saw last year. And on the other side of that, Cole Bishop, I've also been a critic of that. You drafted this dude in the second round. You can make safeties out of sand, and you're the best freaking safeties coach out there and defensive backs coach in general. And now you draft a safety in the second round. And I've said that this kid has to be a star.
Right.
There's no other thing.
Like him, right? There's
no beyond acceptable.
You can tell.
Right. But they haven't exactly, there was some weird comments about his health and well-being or whatever. And is he up to speed on things? And he's a rookie. He's got to learn. And at the safety position, again, I wasn't expecting him to start day one no matter what, but he has to learn the system and he has to play. And barring injury like there currently is, he's going to have to grow throughout the season to a point where we are comfortable with him out there. I just hope it gets to that point. I say hope, but it has to. They don't have a choice. You drafted a safety in the second round. he better be a superstar. It's not, you passed up on every other positions that you could have had. You drafted a safety, and that's your bread and butter position. This guy better be a star. And that's still, I feel like they put pressure on him by drafting him where they did. And yeah, I think they're going to work toward that. He won't be starting early on, though.
No, but he's week to week with it. Looks like a shoulder. Mike Edwards is dealing with a hamstring,
week
and
as
he's
well.
going to miss a few weeks, is what McDermott said. So both are behind. I mean, Mike Edwards obviously has the leg up there because he has played so much. But again, it feels like the Bills are not comfortable because they're bringing in Kareem Jackson, who he thinks more of a mentor, right?
Veteran,
but
yeah.
Terrell Burgess is the other one the Bills bring in. Played with Tyler Rapp in L.A. That's now, 2 years ago. His last real game time was in 2021 where he played 16 games. Since then, hasn't made it through a season. 12 games for Washington last year. So again, this one's interesting because it just feels like depth. Former 3rd round pick, but again, been quiet as of late the last few seasons for him. Bounced around the league a little bit like a lot of safeties do. But again, I feel like if the Bills were comfortable where they are, they wouldn't bring in a guy like Burgess because,
and you need, again, you need bodies right now. That's it. It's training camp, and you're down 2 guys at a position that is a competitive position that you need. Again, things like communication and that matter at that position. So you really got to have those things down. And like you said, the fact that he's played with Rapp was probably a big point in signing him, right? That, hey, they've communicated before back there. We can let them communicate our defense, right? And make this work for us if needed or when needed, because again, preseason, all that, even if Bishop were to come back or, Edwards were to come back, you're not putting them out there for training camp games right now, right? Like you're not putting preseason games. Yeah, that's you're not going to be playing with that recovery from injury. So definitely want to play it safe in those situations.
Right. And it's almost like if you do have injuries and your plans disrupted, whether that was Mike Edwards or Cole Bishop to start week 1, I feel like when cut down day happens, a lot of safeties hit the market, a lot of good safeties. So if the Bills pull from that, then we know, okay, they're not comfortable.
They need
with that
somebody.
position.
Yes,
yeah.
right.
So that's something.
Because it wouldn't surprise me if both of those guys that we just mentioned that got signed get cut. Right. That's my expectation right now. Unless those injuries are sustained and more long term, then you need at least one of them to stick. But to me, they're just here short term.
Yeah. And I don't think any of them are really safe on the roster, right? It seems like a full competition at this point. Because we know like McDermott can coach secondaries, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of his thing. I mean, they look at Hyde's career, Poyer's career before they got to Buffalo was really shaky. But then he solidified them as long-term starters, right? So that could happen again with McDermott.
We hope so. Yes, exactly. We need that new tandem, or at least 2 guys who can ball out for their time, right? Hyde and Poyer overlapped for their entire time. That's very rare, right?
Yeah,
you need some wiggle room there for one guy to, sign a contract elsewhere or whatever, or retire or something, and somebody else come in. So that's at least a good sign that they can do that.
I think we covered most of the Bills' big buzz. Any little buzz you've been hearing?
Oh, I wouldn't call it little buzz, but the other thing I did want to bring up, especially with you, because I know where you stand on the concerns over Kaiir Elam. Kaiir Elam is a name that has been popping in training camp, that he's working with the ones, rotating in with Benford and Ben balling out, right? Making plays, breaking up
I heard
passes.
he's taking coaching well, right?
Yeah.
There's a renewed relationship between the secondaries coach and Kaiir Elam.
I think, yeah.
But that's what you want to see. But again, you got to put it on the field.
Right.
And I think he's locked in at CB3. I don't think he beats Benford. I also heard Benford's been really scrappy this training camp.
No, I don't think but you're going to have rotation at that position. And the point is, Elam has really worked his way into the conversation of comfortability with putting him out there, right? You can rest Benford. You can, put him out there in tight situations and know that he's capable of and comfortable making a play, that he doesn't feel awkward out there, that he doesn't, again, we talked about this earlier with guys just not just being in their head too much, right? And
Yeah.
maybe the game is coming
Winning.
to him now, right? And that's where you want him to be. He's still a super young player, plays a premium position. Man, if we can get a little bit out of him, and remember that, we're going to be short a cornerback next year, and if you don't pay, then you gotta
Right.
put in. It'll be a tandem of Benford and Elam, and that's pretty much on paper what it looks like it's going to be next year.
What do you think the ceiling is for Kyrie Elam this year? Do you think he can work his way into a starting role? And let's assume no injuries happen.
No, I think his best case scenario is that even if he's, playing very well, he rotates in like 50% of the time, let's say, right? Like 50%, that's a true rotation.
Yeah.
If he gets 50% of the defensive snaps, that's really good on him. That means, hey, we have all the confidence in the world in you. You'd be a starter if one of these guys wasn't here.
He was great in college. He played a lot of man defense, and he has a lot of abilities. Drafted in the first round. Like, I think if he earns the starting job and is like really showing a lot of progression, I mean, start him. Why wouldn't you? A guy with this type of ability.
Over who, though? Over Christian Benford, who's been amazing at the position?
Right.
You can't.
Yeah, so it's like, but I feel like if Elam got it together, he has higher upside than Christian Benford long term.
Sure.
But this is a stretch right now because we haven't seen anything from Kyrie Elam, but just first round athletic
we're
ability,
talking training
right?
camp. Yes.
Right. Yes. This is just hypothetical, but
his upside.
But that's
and
his ceiling, in my opinion.
We've seen flashes of it. We talked about it.
He takes the starting role and runs with it and holds it down for a number of years. So it was a slow start in the beginning, but he gets up to speed, runs with it. That's his best case scenario.
Yes.
What's his worst case scenario?
That this is another training camp only type of story, and the first time he's out there, he gets back in his head. He gives up big plays.
Yeah.
We've seen him make splash plays, but the problem isn't the splash plays. It's that he gives up one for every one he makes pretty much, right? So you don't want that to be an even match. You don't want to give up a huge touchdown and then, but he got an interception. No, that doesn't cancel each other out that way. Yeah,
I think worst case scenario for him is he doesn't see the field at all, kind of like last year.
I don't think that'll be the case right now because the Bills are much lighter at cornerback. You don't have James Jackson anymore.
It shows, coaching staff doesn't believe in him. It's too risky to put him out there.
I think we would have seen that already, though. The fact that he's getting snaps in training camp with the ones tells you that they know, and he's balling out. He's making plays. It's not like he's out there.
The training camp's also the time to experiment too, right?
Yes.
You got to check in on the progression.
Certainly.
What's different. So, I mean, you rotate everybody around.
He's got to be out there. If one of those guys goes down, Elam is the next guy up. I don't think anybody would argue that. Ingram maybe, but another guy who's done well in camp. But I still think Elam is 3 and Ingram is 4 in terms of outside corner or whatever you want to say. And Ingram has worked in the slot as well. But yeah, I think those guys are the 2 depth cornerbacks at this point, and Elam is worthy of being a starter. And like you said, you expressed concern, I think rightfully so, that if one of our guys went down and Elam had to start, we would be a lot more nervous because we don't know what to expect from him.
Because you just don't know if you can rely on him from a fan's perspective, right?
Exactly. But from what we're seeing in training camp, this is a different version of Elam we haven't seen, right? It's not like his rookie year he balled out and then couldn't get it done on the field. He wasn't one of those guys. It was more like we're not feeling like what we should have expected through training camp and all that leading into the season. And it just wasn't the same until, now this training camp. So we're seeing something here and we hope it is maintained through the season now.
Yeah.
It's enough to give me hope.
Right. And I think I said this before. If they bring in another corner off the street, then Elam's not progressing, right? That's the big.
Yeah, I was never on that train. I didn't think they would sign a cornerback. I thought, remember again in my 53-man roster projection, it's the edge rusher that I feel like is that position of, if we're going to sign somebody off the street, that's the one that I think could make the roster on cutdown day or opening day or whatever you want to say for the Bills, because it still is an important position of need where I'm not as confident in the depth. Yeah. So cornerback, I don't think there's a big enough need there unless we have an injury. I mean, obviously then you would need to sign somebody, but right now I think the upgrade for me would be, other than safety, which we've seen already. They've signed a couple guys, and like we've already mentioned, Hyde being on the border somewhere. That I do think edge is the next position to sign and shore up.
Yeah.
Not that our guys haven't looked good, right?
Next draft, right?
By all means, things are looking good there, right? So everybody's playing their role, including Von Miller, who we've heard is being rotated in the way that I said, not the way that you said you wanted, right? You wanted him to be every down snapper. I don't think that's going to be who he is anymore. It's going to be working him in as the third guy, basically, and putting him in the situations where you need him to succeed.
Yeah, and you're not counting nickel, right? Taron Johnson's technically
correct. Cornerback. Yeah, no. Yeah.
Outside corner number 3.
He's got that locked down. Yeah, right. If you can, but the fact that Ingram was taking snaps there, and obviously a guy like Cam Lewis, they love Cam Lewis, but is he expendable if you can have somebody else be the backup nickel? Then I think so, who's also versatile enough to play other positions. And obviously the special teams factor, like you said, that's going to be a big role, or play a big role in ultimately who they keep and who they cut.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. All right, got a couple stats I want to get to. Time got a little short, so I had to delete one. But let's do Keon Coleman expectations year 1. And let's see. Okay, so his rookie year, what do you expect in terms of yardage, receptions, and where's that going to rank among other Bills rookie receivers? So let's see if you can name even the top 2 best rookie seasons for a Bills receiver.
In history, Bills rookie receivers.
Yeah, we'll see where Keon Coleman ranks on this at the end of the year. But
oh man, was Andre Reed good his rookie year? I mean,
Andre Reed, number 4.
Okay,
637 receiving yards in 15 games. 1985.
607, you said?
637.
637. Okay, so that's 4. Okay. Eric Moulds. Not his rookie year.
19th. 19th.
Okay, so not his rookie year, basically.
His rookie year is 279.
Right, yeah. That's something you'd expect from a typical rookie, yeah. We know he turned into a star.
So Gabe Davis is 6.
Ooh.
2020, 599 yards receiving.
Okay, that's modern. Yeah, that makes sense. And these are guys obviously drafted, so you're not going to be like, Stephon Diggs or something, right?
And Robert Woods, Robert Foster, they're 7, 8, right?
Robert Woods would have been one I mentioned, yeah, because he did flash early.
You might knew that. Zay Jones, he was 16th. So yeah, there's 2 big ones you're missing. Number 1 and number 2. Most yards in the rookie season for the Bills.
Stevie Johnson? Is he on the list?
Ooh. Not on the list.
Not for his rookie year. Again, yeah, it's hard to think of because you think of, Stevie Johnson had all this production, especially from where he was drafted, but not, not on the list.
All right, I'll give you go ahead and do one more guess, then I'll give it to you.
Okay, let's see. So who haven't I mentioned in terms of wide receiver production early on for the Bills? Oh my God.
This is fun.
You know who I just thought of? Robert Foster, because he was one who became our one, but
he's 8th.
He's 8th. See, that was
I mentioned 541 yards.
Oh, you did say
2018, so that's Josh Allen's rookie year.
So how far back are we going? You're talking the top.
So number 1 is 2014, number 2 is 2004.
Oh man. 2014, who am I missing? All right.
Remember the Kyle Orton? I'm not sure what year that was, but I remember Kyle Orton throwing touchdown passes. Those quarterbacks were a mess back then, Lord.
And it wasn't Robert Woods. So who drafted?
All right. Sammy Watkins is number 1.
Oh, Sammy Watkins, of course. How did I miss Sammy? Now
982 yards.
Mad at myself for missing that one. The most infamous Bills first-round pick wide receiver ever. Sammy,
6 touchdowns that year, 128 targets. He also led, he leads all Bills rookie receivers in targets as well.
128 targets his rookie year. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they traded up to get him, so like they
Right, yeah, I
They
mean, he
thought
was
this
all
guy was gonna be next level receiver, and
exactly,
he
exactly.
showed flashes of that, but
Sure,
it's
sure.
never consistent.
And then the injury bug got
Yeah,
him, yeah,
and
so it's
he, throughout his career, he had good quarterbacks too, and it just never really progressed,
mhm.
right? He did have injuries, that's a good point. Number 2 is Lee Evans.
Oh, I love Lee Evans, so yeah,
Yep,
that one I shoulda got, that I would have mentioned him
843,
eventually,
2004,
but
just to
not a
round
guy I
it
would
out.
have thought about his rookie year as being, the
Mhm.
guy, but yeah.
Yeah, I think
So
he
that's
was drafted high as well, right? Trying to remember. Lee Evans was a first rounder.
2nd, I think? No, was
Second.
he a
Oh, he
first
was
rounder?
second.
2nd
Yep.
rounder, yeah,
Good call.
yeah. So that's a yeah.
Um,
But still, I mean, Sammy Watkins' unbelievable production his first year probably still didn't live up to expectations even in his rookie year, believe it or not, being picked where he was,
but
but,
you gotta think Keon Coleman's gonna have 500 yards receiving, right?
correct. I think that's
Yeah.
that's
That'd put
probably
him in the top 10.
I mean, remember we're talking the extra game now and all that, and,
Mhm.
he should be in the top 10 because I do think he should get 500 yards.
Right.
And did you say touchdowns too, or is that's not the category you were talking
I
about?
didn't sort by
Okay,
touchdowns,
but still with
but,
even
I did
even
targets.
yards and targets, yeah, targets is
Yeah.
he's not gonna be anywhere near 124
He
targets. I
gets
mean, that's
40 targets. What did Kincaid have last year for targets?
I think he was in, like, the 60s, almost 70,
60s.
69, I
I
think.
only filtered receivers, but, that would've put him in the top. He might have been 5 if he's in the 60s. Gabe Davis was in the 60s his rookie year in targets. He was number 5.
Interesting, yeah, so
Yep.
Kincaid would be up there in terms of
Yeah.
rookie
So I
receivers,
think it's
quote,
fair
unquote.
to expect that, Ken Coleman will have 40, I think. Which
Targets?
I think 40 targets on the season.
Oh my god, that's low in my mind, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So that puts him in the top 10 for Bills receivers, rookie receivers.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, again, you're not talking of an extensive list of star players there when Robert Foster
Mhm.
is one in your in your top 10 and things
Right.
like that, but, you know, the
Bills just
expectations
don't, yeah,
aren't through the roof. They're not Sammy Watkins, but they're not,
right.
who was
And
number
the
10?
thing is
Not Robert Foster
the
either.
Bills just don't have a lot of rookie receivers, right? It just seems to be the case. I mean, Khalil Shakir's 17th on this list, and he had, what, 20 targets his rookie year in 2022.
Oh, yes, okay.
James
Mhm,
Hardy, some of these other names that you remember being
mhm.
hopefuls, Donald Jones,
Yeah, wow.
David
Oof.
Nelson from Florida,
Yeah, oh my god.
like
These are getting depressing now. That's
yeah,
not they were
exactly.
getting more depressing than they are exciting.
Yeah, just not a great list
Hey,
here, but,
yeah, yeah. All guys that you're
um,
like, "Oh, this could be a good" no.
you might be able to get this next one, though. Alright, Josh Allen, he's gonna break the touchdown record, franchise touchdown record for
Well,
rushing
yeah.
touchdowns. Who are the 2 players ahead of him right now?
For rushing touchdowns. Well,
Rushing
Thurman
touchdowns.
Thomas
Yep,
is definitely one of them.
easy one. He's
OJ
65
Simpson?
touchdowns. Yep, and
Is
OJ
OJ the other
Simpson's
one? Yeah.
OJ's
Is
number
it
2.
yeah.
Yep, then Josh Allen. Huge drop,
OJ
like
or
20
OJ's on this
touchdown
one.
drop, then it's
OJ.
Fred Jackson.
Freddie, yeah, I was gonna say Freddie should be up there as well. I mean, just continuity with the team and all that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
what's Josh? Josh needs Thurman's at 65, Josh is at 53 rushing touchdowns,
Oh
so
my gosh, so he could do it. He
12.
had
He could do it
15
this
last
year.
year,
Yeah,
right? So, yeah, I mean, that
yeah.
would be high. I mean, 10 is probably the number I'm, like, comfortable with. Like, yeah, if you told me 10 and he gets 9 or he gets 11, great. 15 and I'm like, "Okay, you might have been running a little too much into the end." Yeah, I think that's more likely to be in the next season than this season in my mind. So I would take the under there
Mhm.
just because I think it's gonna be more around 9 or
I
10
got
for
bigger
Josh.
receivers, got a tight end playing in the slot, you got a lot of blockers, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So
You never know. He
yep.
could
So
y
let's see some
you
other
could tell
names
me he
on
gets
here.
20 and that wouldn't surprise me either though. So
Right.
it's not like it just makes me more nervous that like, okay, if he's running that much, what's happening? But yeah, if the receiving core does what they're supposed to do this year and spreads it out, we could see more rushes from Josh Allen because the defense is going to have to cover every single one of them, and that's
Yeah.
going to leave holes somewhere out there. So yeah, I do think there's a way where that you could convince me that he does break that and gets 15, 16 rushing touchdowns.
Yep, it's
It's
interesting.
just not what I'm
So,
predicting. 10 is probably where I'm
yeah,
at.
obviously he's the number 1, uh, quarterback with rushing touchdowns
Mhm.
by, like, 40, right?
That's not even close, yeah.
You know who's number 2?
for rushing touchdowns by
a quarterback. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Is it Fitz? I mean,
No,
because I don't
Fitz is
think
12. He
like
only had 2.
Ferguson, like those guys didn't like Jim Kelly. I mean, he wasn't really
Yep. Jim Kelly 4th with
just
7. Not a big runner. EJ
7
Manuel.
touchdowns total. 7 total.
Yeah.
Wow,
10
that's
years he played.
hilarious. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
10
Yeah.
years he had 7
Yeah.
rushing touchdowns. Yeah, and now we're
Well,
like,
I was thinking
gosh,
EJ Manuel. He
15.
had a lot of rushing in
That's
college.
true too.
EJ
I was
Manuel's at
thinking EJ.
4th.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Or he had
yeah.
4. He's 7th overall with 4 touchdowns. But Tyrod Taylor's number 2, 14 touchdowns.
That's true too. Yeah, it wouldn't have taken me long to get there as well. That makes sense. But still, Josh Allen is 50 above all of them. So that's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Josh is 2nd overall in all quarterback rushing touchdowns. He's behind Cam Newton. Cam Newton had 75 from 2011 to 2021. Josh Allen sitting there at 2 with 53. Steve Young was 3rd with 43 touchdowns, and Jalen Hurts is 4th with 41 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is
okay.
Over guys like Dante Culpepper, over guys like Mike Vick, Steve McNair. I mean,
yeah, it's the guys who
impressive
were
stuff.
really the classic running quarterbacks that we saw, the ones who initiated that. Yeah. I remember that, man, watching Steve McNair play, he was one of the most exciting of that time, right? So, yeah. So it's good list to be on, nonetheless. Yeah. But, that top 10 list that somebody made, I forget who it was, with the best rushing, passing quarterbacks of all time, and they didn't put Josh on the list. I mean, that's insane. Right?
Yeah,
he's definitely
he's still playing,
on
right?
that list.
But that could be it. Yeah, the all-time rushing touchdown list, all players, Josh is 68th. He just passed Marion Barber. He's tied with Marion Barber, but he's ahead of Christian McCaffrey. And this year he'll likely pass Elvin Kamara, Arian Foster, Matt Forte, Larry Johnson, Chris Johnson, Tiki Barber.
That is now my favorite stat going into this season. Josh Allen has more rushing touchdowns than Christian McCaffrey
in his career. Well, McCaffrey's had a lot of injuries.
That's true, but and he's got receiving touchdowns as well. So I mean, Christian McCaffrey is a dual threat player, and still an elite player. But I don't think I would have said yes to that if somebody asked me, does Josh have more rushing touchdowns than Christian McCaffrey? My instinct would have been no, right? Like he probably got a bunch more than him. But interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. He'll never get to Emmett. I think Emmett's at 164. Looking it up now. Yeah, the top guys, all-time rushing touchdowns: Emmitt Smith, LaDainian Tomlinson, Marcus Allen, Adrian Peterson.
If Josh ever got to that level, I mean, those guys would be
right. And Emmitt Smith's at 164, Tomlinson 145, Peterson's at 4 with 120.
Yeah.
So again, Josh, long way to go, but Josh got a lot of years left.
That's true. I mean, I don't know how much he'll be running in 10+ years, but
yeah, production.
We'll see.
Yeah. Anyway, fun stat. But
maybe that'll be how Josh Allen ages. Instead of being, the pocket passer, he's going to end up being the bull rusher in 10 years from now. He's going to be the running back quarterback.
Why not? It works. I mean, that's the thing. He still gets 15 rushing touchdowns a year, and it's like, no, they know he's going to run. You know what I mean? You just can't stop it.
That's right. Yeah, even when he does. Then he's going to stiff arm you and then make you a highlight reel. That's why.
Exactly. You don't
or jump over you.
All right, that's all we got, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be with you next week, next Thursday, 7:30. And we'll probably be talking preseason game, right? It's preseason game the 10th. It's that Saturday at 1. And we're on our way. We're going to be doing our divisional breakdown here in a couple weeks. Go through every single division, talk about, who you would bet on to win the division, kind of do our order of our final standings, right? So
excited to do that. Our preseason preview. Yeah.
So you can find that on the Hoof channel. It'll likely be on Built in Buffalo as well. So tune in for that. Anyway, thank you, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Thanks for kicking it with us. Go Bills.